For years, Sergeant Graham Calloway and Officer Tony Mercer did whatever they pleased. Every stop a setup, every complaint vanished. They ruled by intimidation, convinced they were untouchable. Then they hassled the wrong man, Marcus Hale, a black veteran walking his German shepherd. When he questioned their authority, tempers flared. Threats turned physical. A hand moved toward a gun. Justice was about to get personal. Before we continue, drop where you're watching from and hit subscribe. Afternoon light stretched long across the quiet cul-de-sac, warm gold filtering through maples over clean sidewalks. Ranger's paws clicked softly, ears twitching, at a far-off mower and hidden birds. His leash hung loose in Marcus's firm grip, the two moving in easy sync. It was one of those still, uncomplicated days. Marcus inhaled cut grass, exhaled a week's worth of strain, letting the neighborhood's calm settle into his shoulders. He'd been gone longer than usual this rotation, supervising overseas protective operations. Back now, he wanted small comforts, a leisurely walk with Ranger, sunshine on his forearms, the dull hum of home. Yet even in calm, he registered glances, a car creeping too slow at the stop sign, a curtain lifting upstairs, a jogger hesitating, then moving on, pretending not to stare. Survival had taught Marcus, now 42, to read a room before it formed. In war zones, it meant catching the tell, a wrong shadow, a disturbed alley, a stranger's posture. Here it was subtler, but no less real, eyes lingering. A beat too long, purses clutched tighter, a man with a golden retriever crossing without a word. Existing became provocation. He'd spent years with Delta, stepping into alleys you didn't step out of, trusting almost no one. He'd toppled warlords, dismantled cells, shielded strangers who'd never know his name. Yet the neighborhood he'd paid for with blood and bone treated him like a wrong address. The corner ahead turned, and a cruiser slid into view. Black, white, and inevitable. Ranger's chest vibrated with a low hum only Marcus felt through the leash. Easy, he murmured, voice calm. The shepherd refocused on him, reading the minute cues, settling. The cruiser slowed to match their pace. A window dropped. Afternoon, sir. Marcus stopped smoothly, turning relaxed, neutral, giving nothing to sharpen against. Afternoon, officer, he answered, steady as a level line. Calloway leaned against the window, face unreadable, eyes inventorying. Mercer was already out, boots scraping, posting close enough to press, far enough to deny it. You live around here? Calloway asked, casual like bait. Yes, sir, Marcus replied. Surprise flickered across Calloway's mouth at the sir. Strange, don't think I've seen you. Travel a lot, Marcus said. Private security, consulting. Mercer snorted. Security consulting? Fancy for mercenary? Marcus chuckled, letting them believe the angle was theirs. Not quite. High-risk protective work, train emergency response teams, some agency contracts. Calloway nodded like he'd filed a charge. We got a call about someone suspicious. Marcus raised a brow, polite as glass. Didn't realize walking my dog qualified. You'd be surprised, Calloway said, not smiling. Mercer eyed Ranger. Big dog, trained. Yes, sir. For what? Obedience, protection. He's disciplined. The conversation shifted. Gonna need ID, Calloway said, not requesting. Marcus knew the dance. He could push back. He could insist on cause. He could also read men who wanted an excuse. Of course, he said, moving slow, deliberate. Ranger rumbled. Marcus steadied the leash. Calloway's fingers twitched near his belt. Whoa, Mercer said. Keep that thing settled. Marcus's jaw flexed, but his tone stayed placid. Ranger's fine. He follows commands. Calloway chuckled without humor. We'll see. Something in the cadence tightened Marcus's stomach. An unspoken promise of escalation. He held out the wallet. Mercer barely looked before waving him aside. Step over here. Just a few questions. Marcus stepped, deliberate as a metronome. Ranger's leash stayed unbroken in his palm, the shepherd's muscles sliding from relaxed to attentive. Mercer flipped the ID lazily, looking for a narrative already chosen. He showed Calloway. Real soldier, Mercer said. Delta. Calloway's tone held bored disdain. That's supposed to mean something. Marcus gave them nothing. It means I served. Now I consult. Calloway passed the wallet back in a way that forced Marcus close, a small control play. Marcus accepted, tucking it away without blinking. Here's what I see, Calloway drawled. Guy walk in a neighborhood where folks don't recognize him. You know how it goes. People get nervous when someone doesn't look like they belong. I do belong, Marcus said. I live here. Calloway folded his arms, stepping in. Then a few more questions won't bother you. Marcus didn't move. I believe I already answered. Mercer adjusted his belt, scoffing. Something about his vibe doesn't sit right. He's tense. Calloway smirked, almost like he's hiding something. Marcus inhaled, steadying. He'd negotiated with men wearing bombs. None of them held this cheap hunger. Ranger read it too. The dog's ears rose, eyes fixed, body shifting to alert. You got him under control? Calloway asked, chin tipping at the shepherd. He's fine, Marcus said. He obeys. Trained for what, again? Mercer prodded. Protection, Marcus said. He follows orders. Dog like that's dangerous, Calloway said. You sure he's not trained to attack? Defend, Marcus corrected. Defend you from what? Calloway's smirk widened. The question hung, heavy with meaning. Marcus offered nothing. Mercer exhaled through his nose, stepping closer, closing distance. Maybe we bring him in till we sort this. Ranger's leash tightened a fraction as the shepherd shifted, muscles wiring. No need, Marcus said. I've cooperated. You've got my ID. No cause to detain. Mercer's shrug was theatrical. Maybe, but I don't like how this feels. Turn around, hands behind your back. Our safety. Marcus's jaw tightened, voice controlled. I haven't done anything. Then you won't mind, Calloway smiled, stepping nearer. It was a test, the kind designed to harvest a reaction. Mercer reached for Marcus's wrist. Ranger snarled, sharp, clean, primal. Guns appeared like lightning. Marcus moved with trained precision, redirected Mercer's grip, stepped back, grounded Rangers with the leash, spoke sharp authority. He's reacting to your aggression. Stand down. They didn't hear him. Mercer's weapon was out, fear pretending to be control. Get that dog back. Calloway hovered over his own holster. Ranger held, coiled, eyes locked on threats. Marcus's pulse smoothed into mission rhythm. He lifted his hands, palms open, voice firm. Officers, I live here. You saw my address. Ranger stayed planted, feeling Marcus's heartbeat through the line. This wasn't a stop. It never had been. With hands near holsters and voices turning bright with heat, the outcome felt pre-written. Only the pretext was still flexible. Calloway's smirk vanished, replaced by calculation. Control your damn dog. Marcus kept his hands up, refusing the bait. He hasn't moved. He's leashed and trained. He's reacting to you. Don't care what you think, boy, Mercer snapped, voice cracking like a whip. Control your dog. Marcus's fingers twitched. Not anger, discipline. Every move now could detonate something irreversible. Officers, I'm complying, Marcus said, lowering his tone to cool the air. You saw my ID. You know I live here. My dog is restrained. I'm not resisting. What exactly do you need right now? Calloway stepped closer, hand twitching, eyes searching for a spark. You think this is a game? He sneered. Right now, you're a threat. That mutt, a liability. Mercer advanced a fraction. You gonna keep talking? Or do what you're told? Ranger's growl rolled. Marcus angled his stance, never breaking sight lines, maintaining leverage on the leash. You're escalating, he said. I'm stationary. My dog is stationary. Aggression is not coming from me. Stand down now, Mercer barked, the eagerness behind the order too visible to hide. Put that mutt down. Make him sit, Calloway demanded. Marcus kept it measured, turned slightly, issued a crisp command. Ranger, down. The dog folded to the pavement, stiff but obedient, ears pinned, reading compulsion in Marcus's cadence. "Shorten the leash," Calloway said, unsatisfied. Marcus complied, drawing slack, locking the dog's range. A look passed between the officers, unspoken, decisive. "Turn around," Mercer said. "Hands behind your back." Marcus's voice dropped, low, controlled. "I've done nothing wrong." Calloway's smile crept back. "And yet here we are." Marcus didn't turn. He understood the choreography. Once his back showed, they'd make a story from it. "Turn around," Mercer repeated, stepping in. Ranger's growl deepened. Their hands shot toward weapons like magnets. "He is controlled," Marcus snapped. "Not good enough," Calloway barked, fingers tightening. The air thinned. Tiny hairs rose along Marcus's neck. Heat receded. Focus narrowed. Mercer moved first, hand darting for steel. Ranger reacted on instinct, a single warning bark, muscles bunching. The crack tore the afternoon apart. The leash jerked. Ranger stumbled, eyes wide, legs failing. Marcus's knees hit asphalt before thought. Ranger collapsed heavy against him. Blood warmed Marcus's hands, viscous and immediate. Voices blurred to a distant swarm. The world shrank to a chest, stuttering for air, and eyes holding his, waiting for the next command. "Stay with me," Marcus whispered, voice raw. He pressed hard, willing the wound to close under his palms. Ranger trembled, breath shallow, uneven. The dog searched Marcus's face, confused, loyal, waiting. There was no mission now, only pain and a bond fraying too quickly. Marcus felt the strength sliding away, sand through fingers he couldn't cup. "You're okay. You're strong," he murmured, hand smoothing damp fur. "Hold on. Don't quit on me, buddy." The street watched, silent. A final thin exhale, then stillness. Something in Marcus snapped cleanly, a cable under tension giving way. He lifted his head, blood on his arms, lungs hauling ragged air. His body trembled. Not grief alone, but something white-hot, ancient, unclenching at last. "You!" he growled, words serrated. He surged forward, fury forward driving, wanting faces to answer for loss. The taser hit like a slammed door. Lightning locked his muscles, his spine a burning rod. He crashed, breath robbed, nerves screaming. Boots pressed him down, pistols aimed like punctuation. "Stay down! Hands back!" The command volleyed over him. Marcus gasped against surging current, rage clawing his ribs, but calculation argued. Move wrong. Die next. He forced his arms behind. A knee drove into his shoulders, grinding him to pavement. "That's where you belong," Calloway muttered, satisfaction syrup thick. Marcus screamed, raw and guttural. Not pain alone, but protest, a sound too big to hold. "You killed him! You murdered him!" The words tore out, hoarse and relentless, as though volume might rewind time. No one listened. The cuffs bit deeper. Calloway yanked him upright. Metal squeezing bone. Mercer holstered with casual indifference, watching as Marcus was dragged toward the cruiser, residual tremors raking his muscles. He fought the hands shoving him, the metallic slam of the door sealing him inside. Breathing hard in the stale dark, a colder thing settled in his chest, steel replacing flesh where grief had hollowed. The cruiser rolled without siren, the city sliding by in indifferent grays. The cuffs chewed new furrows each jolt. Marcus stared at his blood-streaked knuckles, feeling the residual electric quiver fading into a steadier rhythm. The officers thought this was the finish. It wasn't. He wasn't a man on a stroll anymore. He was a weapon you should never awaken. The car jerked to a stop. Doors opened. Calloway's grip hefted, hauling Marcus like unwanted cargo. Boots hit concrete. Marcus forced steadiness into shaky legs, forcing tremor to zero. They wanted a show. They'd had one when Ranger fell. They wouldn't get another. Mercer smirked, adjusting his belt like a prizefighter. "Welcome to your new home for the night." Booking blurred. Cuffs off. Cold fingers. Ink on skin. Lights buzzing. The mug shot captured dried blood more than face. He was marched to a holding cell that smelled like tense nights and stale apologies. Marcus didn't sit, didn't pace. He waited. Minutes fractured into hours. Rage cooled, hardening into something denser, sharper. The hinge squealed. Footsteps. Purposeful. Furious. "Get your hands off him," Janelle Hale snapped. Marcus's sister, a defense attorney who treated courtrooms like contact sport. Her heels cracked the tile like hail. Power suit, harder stare. She shoved documents into an officer's chest. "Release him, unless you want a lawsuit that eats your budget." Calloway appeared, arms crossed, smarm toggled on. "Relax, sweetheart. Simple misunderstanding." Janelle turned on a dime. "A misunderstanding," she repeated, voice unsheathing. "That what we're calling shooting his dog, tasing him, and booking him in his own blood?" Mercer lounged in the doorway. "He got aggressive, ma'am. We kept it from escalating." Janelle's laugh was blade thin. "You mean you escalated and wrote fiction afterward?" Calloway shrugged. "Could have gone worse." The temperature dropped. Marcus finally spoke, voice quiet, but carrying weight Calloway recognized. "It will," he said. For a beat, even Mercer blinked. Calloway sniffed, bored again. "Take him home, counselor. Tell him to keep his head down. This city doesn't love troublemakers." Janelle's eyes burned, but she only gripped Marcus's wrist, firm, steady. "Let's go," she said softly. Anchor found. They threaded past walls already forgetful, and men convinced they'd won. The night air hit, cool and thin. It wasn't freedom. Janelle's anger dialed down to grief. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know what he meant." Marcus's jaw tightened. Words failed. "Let me handle this," she said, urgent, pleading. "Courts, press, watchdogs will force action. Don't." "It won't work," he said. She stumbled. "Marcus." "It won't," he repeated, calm in a way that chilled. The system had already hugged the officers close. Reports crafted, narratives hardened, liability minimized. "We can appeal," she said. "We can go higher." He stared past her. "They closed it this morning," he said. "No misconduct, no discipline, justified force." Janelle's face flashed disbelief, then fury. She paced to the window, pressing a hand to her forehead, like restraining words physically. "Of course they did," she said tightly. "That doesn't end this. We can still—" "I tried," Marcus said. "When they cuffed me, when I told them I live here, when I showed ID, when I stayed still, stayed polite, begged them to see a person." He swallowed. "Ranger still died." Janelle's jaw clenched, eyes bright, with a grief and anger alloy. Marcus leaned forward, forearms braced on the table. "You're telling me to wait," he said, "to trust a process that's never protected us. Maybe 6 months from now, maybe a hearing, a resignation, a shrug. You know the script." "We have to try," she insisted. "We did," he said softly. "I'm done trying." She lowered into the chair opposite, searching his face for doubt, hesitation, any edge she could wedge hope into. "What are you saying?" Marcus tilted his head, weighing the weight of saying the thing aloud. "You know," he said, her breath shook. "If you do this, there's no coming back." He held her gaze, unblinking. "I don't want to come back." Silence stretched, heavy with unspoken childhoods and shared battles. Janelle exhaled, controlled. She stood, smoothing a jacket that didn't need it. "I'll call tomorrow." Marcus nodded. She hesitated, hand twitching like she might grab him and haul him bodily from this cliff. Instead, she left. The house fell quiet in a way that wasn't rest, it was absence. It pressed inward. He sat at the kitchen table, hands around a cooling mug he never sipped. Ranger's leash lay coiled on the counter, like an artifact, dense with memories. Without the familiar weight at his side, the rooms felt mismeasured. Janelle watched from the window, arms crossed, worry carving new lines. "You haven't slept, Jigru?" she said. He stared at his hands, didn't answer. "You haven't eaten?" she added, softer. Still nothing. She sighed, dragging a palm down her face, stepping closer. "I know what you're thinking." He made a humorless sound, barely a breath. Do you? I know you, she said. If something's broken, you fix it. If there's an enemy, you eliminate it. That's how you're built. But this isn't a battlefield. Feels like one, he said. She lowered her voice, gentler. The system is slow, but it isn't useless. I'm filing. I have reporters, activists, watchdogs. This won't disappear. They already closed it, he said again. No consequence. Her shoulders tensed. Then we appeal, push, escalate. He leaned back, breath steady. They took everything in seconds. You're asking me to wait. Maybe in a year there's a hearing, he said. Maybe a suspension, a pensioned exit. You know the pattern. Janelle's throat bobbed. We have to at least try. I did, he said. There, on the street. I did everything right. His voice thinned but steadied. Ranger still died. I still got caged. She clenched her jaw. He stared through her. I'm done. She searched for the brother she recognized. Found Steele instead. I won't be okay with it, she said. I'm not asking you to be, he answered. I'm telling you where I stand, where this goes. The quiet grew a second skin. Finally, Janelle exhaled, slow. She gathered her bag, smoothing edges. Tomorrow, she said. He nodded, not really there. The house listened to her car fade. Marcus rose, crossed to the counter. His fingers hovered over the leash, tracing worn leather, each nick a story. Dawn runs, midnight checks, long sits under storms. He curled it into his palm, not his leash, but his vow. A war was coming. He had spent years preparing to wage it. The bar sat where city lights turned to shadow, far from streets where uniforms conferred deference. Here, no one cared who you were, only what you could take. Calloway liked it there. He liked the whiskey and the attention. Marcus had been watching days, mapping vices and routines. Same stool, same flirting, same alley with no camera. Predictability kills. He sat in the corner with his hood low, drink untouched, watching Calloway tilt into his sloppy swagger. 5 whiskeys in, the sergeant thought the room belonged to him. Marcus let him go first, savoring familiar walls and false safety. Calloway shouldered through the back door into the dark. The metal side shut behind him. That was the cue. Marcus followed, quiet as condensation. Calloway fumbled keys. They clattered, curses slurring. The kick to ribs landed clean, folding the man to concrete, skull bouncing with a crack that stole breath. Another boot to the midsection. Air fled. Marcus grabbed his collar, hauled him up, slammed him down. The world turned muffled under pain. Who? Calloway wheezed. The answer was silence. Marcus fisted hair, yanked his head back, mouth to ear. You don't get to know me, he whispered, voice cool as winter steel. Not yet. He let go. Calloway dropped like an empty coat. Marcus crouched, studying the man who had smirked beside a dying dog. Judge, jury, executioner, Marcus said softly. Easy when a badge shields consequence. Calloway's breath rasped. You're dead, he tried, bravado wobbling. Marcus's punch cut him off, a precise arc that sprayed the pavement with red. That's for everyone you've beaten and laughed about, he said. Calloway groaned, curling. Marcus let the quiet thicken. After tonight, he said, voice almost gentle, I take everything, your work, your name, your certainty of safety. You will wake every morning, Marcus continued, knowing I'm somewhere you can't see, watching. A hitching breath answered. Marcus stood, then vanished into shadow, as quickly as he'd arrived. Calloway lay there, blood wet, aching in new ways. He had always been the storm, never the exposed shoreline. He tried to move. Pain wrote new rules. Fear learned his name. He shoved palms against cool pavement, vision swimming. Streetlights blurred to halos. His heartbeat hammered in his ears, drowning a distant engine. The alley was empty. The man's words looped, not a threat, an inevitability. Calloway believed him. He found his phone, screen cracked and streaked with blood. It still worked. He dialed. It's 1 a.m., Mercer grumbled. What, Graham? I need backup, Calloway rasped, breath uneven. Silence, then sheets rustling. Where? Alley behind O'Leary's, Calloway said. Some son of a jumped me. Didn't see his face. He hesitated, the unfamiliar weight of uncertainty clogging his throat. He knew me, Tony. Knew my name. Knew things. Mercer's tone sharpened. Things? Said he'd ruin me. Take everything. Mercer scoffed, but unease crept in. Probably some drunk with a mouth. You're still standing. Calloway laughed, brittle. This wasn't random. Mercer sighed. Sit tight, 10 minutes. The call ended. Calloway leaned back against Brick, staring up into a strip of dark sky. The ache wasn't just bruises. It was the knowledge that somewhere the ground had opened under him. Mercer rolled into the alley exactly on time, unmarked car washing light over Calloway's battered outline. He climbed out in jeans and a badge-on-belt uniformity, pistol at hip. What the hell happened? He said, taking in the damage. You think I did this? Calloway snapped, then winced. Mercer scanned shadows. No description. He moved like military, Calloway said. Fast. So some veteran with a grudge? Mercer frowned. Calloway's exhale turned into a wince. He wasn't looking for a fight. He knew us. He knew what we've done. Something tightened in Mercer's jaw. Then we find him. Calloway gave a humorless bark. How? We've got no face. Mercer stepped close, voice lowered. He left you alive. That's a mistake. Calloway nodded after a second, forcing his spine to lengthen. Right. Mercer checked his phone. I'll make calls. See what shakes loose. Calloway swallowed, mind stuck in the echo. This is just the beginning. Mercer clapped his shoulder. Calloway barely felt it. Somewhere outside the light, the man was planning. And for the first time, Calloway sensed he'd already lost. Marcus expected retaliation. He wanted observation. Panic makes patterns. Men convinced they're untouchable scramble ugly when reality taps. They blame outward. He watched from a parked sedan across the street, seat reclined, lens ready. Calloway and Mercer moved with hunting energy, not investigative order. No reports, no interviews. This wasn't police work. It was payback wearing department leather. Calloway limped, a bruise pooling beneath his collar. Pain wasn't the injury. It was powerlessness. They stopped at a battered boxing gym, the kind that doesn't need signage. Fighters trained for survival there, not trophies. Calloway and Mercer had a habit of picking strong, outspoken black men as targets, the ones who didn't bend. The door swung open. Taryn Briggs stepped out. Tall, linebacker build, presence that made space widen. Former amateur fighter, now a mentor who taught kids to hit problems without fists. Marcus had read the complaint Briggs filed 2 years back, excessive force after a baseless arrest. Photos, rib bruises, split brow, wrists raw from cuffs cinched too tight, dismissed as resisting. And here Calloway stood again, looking to squeeze. Marcus zoomed in. Tension crackled from the first words. Calloway too close, arms crossed, chin tilted daringly. Mercer shifted weight, eyes scanning for watchers. Briggs leaned on the frame, wiping sweat, unimpressed. Marcus couldn't hear, but bodies told stories. Calloway's gestures demanded. Briggs shook his head, smirked, said something that pulled Mercer forward, teeth bared. Briggs straightened, taller. Calloway checked Mercer with a palm, then turned back to Briggs, expression dark with warning. Briggs didn't flinch. He laughed. Calloway's hands balled, but he said nothing more. He spun, motioning Mercer along. They left, tight-shouldered. Marcus lowered the camera slightly. So that was the play. No leads. So shake every strong black man nearby. See who blinks. Cowardice, reheated. Briggs muttered, shook his head, disappeared back inside. Calloway and Mercer weren't done. They rolled out. Marcus tailed 3 cars back, staying in blind spots like a ghost in the periphery. They weren't careful. They were angry. The next stop was a tired apartment complex on a street that forgot trash day. Marcus knew the name printed on the mailbox. Dion Carter, pulled on a bogus stop 6 months earlier, dragged out, accused of a weapon that never existed, beaten in holding, charged with assaulting officers while he bled. Marcus sat silent as the officers pounded the door until the frame complained. It opened. Dion blinked away. Sleep. Calloway shouldered through uninvited. Mercer blocked the exit. Kitchen tiles suddenly felt smaller. Through the window, Marcus framed faces. Calloway's and Mercer's expressions sharpened with accusation. Dion lifted his hands in that tired universal compliance. Words volleyed. Dion's posture stayed tight, chin high. Calloway jabbed a finger at Dion's arms, his build profiling as prediction. Dion's jaw shifted. Then he did something unexpected. He laughed. Mercer stepped in, crowding. Marcus steadied his lens. He didn't intervene. Not yet. This wasn't the street outside his house. This was discovery, documentation, strategy. Calloway and Mercer were still writing their own epitaphs and didn't know it. Marcus recorded each frame, each posture, each illegal step inside an apartment without warrant or invitation. Evidence stacked slowly, and then all at once. He would be ready. Calloway's questions sharpened to accusations. Mercer's tone ratcheted to menace. Dion refused to give them fear. He kept his hands visible, his voice level, even as the officers crowded his counter like they owned his rent. Marcus took pictures of door jamb damage, of boot scuffs on tile, of Dion's clock reading time he hadn't agreed to host them at. A record. When they left like storms. Nothing resolved, only rattled. Dion sagged against his fridge after the door latched. Marcus stored the shots, backed up twice. Then he rolled, trailing the unmarked sedan. He mapped routes, logged turns, waited for habits to appear in the pattern. People are clocks even when they think they're chaos. He'd learned that abroad. Calloway and Mercer circled old haunts, banging on doors that remembered their names. They stopped at a chop shop where favors got traded like cigarettes. They visited a liquor store back room where panic wore cologne. Marcus watched hands being shook too hard, eyes refusing to meet. He filmed everything. Pressure reveals fractures. Fractures reveal roots in. He followed them. He parked 2 blocks away from a woman's house. Calloway shouldn't have visited off-duty. The shade of the porch light knew his face. He spoke too close. She leaned back. Mercer scrolled his phone, pretending he wasn't listening. Marcus dated and time-stamped each frame. Bad men often bury themselves with familiar shovels. All he had to do was hold the dirt. Night crawled toward dawn when their energy burned down to embers. They ate at a fluorescent diner, slurping coffee like penance. Marcus didn't need their words. He had their surfaces, and surfaces betray. He photographed the bruise blooming on Calloway's ribs when he stretched. He recorded Mercer's agitated leg, bouncing through fatigue. He logged license plates coming and going. Back home, he spread images across his desk, like cards in a rigged deck. He sorted by timeline, location, posture. He marked each deviation from policy, each petty trespass people shrug at until someone connects them. He built a quiet case with loud pieces. When vengeance and truth align, the work hums. Ranger's leash lay coiled beside his notes. He closed his eyes, palm on leather, memory running a montage. Early morning runs, Ranger's head on his knee while he wrote reports. That last look before the gunshot split the world. He let himself feel it. 30 seconds, no more. Then he got back to work. War didn't wait. It accepted orphans and offered them purpose. He chose the latter. The next day he planted seeds, a burner phone to a reporter who hadn't lost her spine, an anonymous packet to internals, one honest investigator, the kind who gets sidelined at promotion boards, a thumb drive for a civil rights advocate who knew how to turn a story into pressure. No names, only timestamps, photos, addresses, a rope laid quietly around necks. He also showed up where Calloway least expected, the school his daughter attended. Not to threaten, never them. To be seen by cameras as a silent man reading a notice board, then leaving. He wanted Calloway to feel watched without the innocent feeling threatened. Fear eats privilege quickly. Marcus didn't need violence now. He needed Calloway sleepless, unraveling, making bigger mistakes. He mailed a certified letter to the department's civilian board, citing line item violations with exact times. He quoted policy back to them like a catechism: consent to enter, exigent circumstances, use of force continuum. He knew their language. He'd written better. He wrapped the facts in calm. When systems ignore screams, sometimes they blink at exquisite paperwork. He supplied it. Then he waited, watching the loop tighten. Calloway arrived at the bar earlier than usual, drank faster, flinched at laughter that wasn't about him. Mercer paced in the precinct lot making calls. They visited Briggs again. They lurked outside Dion's building. Marcus filmed them filming their own downfall. A snare needs patience. His patience had burnished into something harder. Mercer finally snapped. He shoved Briggs in front of the gym, hand on chest, voice hot. Briggs didn't back up. He squared. Calloway glanced at passing cars, calculating witnesses. Marcus captured everything from across the street with a stabilized lens. When a kid pulled a phone and started recording, Marcus smiled, just a little. Sunlight loves truth. It multiplies angles. That night, Marcus slipped into the alley again, this time leaving something behind. A small envelope with a single photograph. Calloway grinning over a man in cuffs 2 summers ago, the man's cheek already swelling. On the back, a time and a badge number. No signature. He tucked it under the back door of O'Leary's, where Calloway kept bad habits. When Calloway found it, his hands shook. The past, once so safe, crawled under his skin. He dialed Mercer with breath he couldn't steady. "He's got pictures," he said. "Old stuff." Mercer cursed, asked questions Calloway couldn't answer. "We tighten up," Mercer said. "We control the narrative." Calloway stared at the photo, trembling between his fingers. Control had left the chat. The first reporter called the department PR desk before lunch. The second posted a blind item by dinner. The civilian board asked for an informal briefing. Internal Affairs opened up preliminary fact-finding. None of that cleared Ranger's grave from Marcus's mind, but tides were moving. Men like Calloway survive on still water. He'd stirred a current they couldn't outswim. Marcus kept eyes on collateral. He sent Janelle a folder with no sender. Summaries, not photos. He wasn't dragging her into crimes. He was giving her the map of a coming storm. She'd know where to stand when it broke. She called him anyway. "Marcus, don't!" He didn't answer. He let the line ring out, then rest in quiet. Calloway and Mercer started making obvious mistakes, the kind born of sleep deprivation and panic. A questionable stop on the wrong civilian with a dash cam. A complaint from a store owner about harassment caught on indoor video. Marcus clipped each one, logged them, forwarded selectively. The story built itself. He only stacked the chapters, then slid them to readers. He saw Calloway in the diner again, hands wrapped around coffee like a flotation device. Mercer talked fast, eyes flicking to exits. When their food arrived, neither ate. Calloway jumped at a fork clatter. Marcus counted how many times Mercer checked his phone. 8 in 10 minutes. He wrote 8 hash marks in his notebook, as tidy as windows. The gym hosted a teen sparring night. Briggs ran it like church. Calloway and Mercer parked outside, engines idling. Marcus angled for a shot that captured the sign. Youth night. No spectators except guardians. He framed their headlights intruding like eyes. When parents started filming too, Calloway finally pulled away, cursed so loud Mercer flinched, then punched the dashboard. Marcus drafted one last packet, the heaviest yet. Bodycam metadata, cross-checked with dispatch times, policy excerpts highlighted, photos with geotags, witness statements he'd taken clean and careful. He included the night ranger died, neighbors' angles, audio of the shot, timestamps proving who escalated. He sealed it. Ranger's leash lay under his palm. "This is for you," he said, simple. He dropped the packet at a newsroom lobby after hours, slipping it through a slot with other anonymous truths. Outside, wind lifted the hair at his temple. He didn't look back. He stepped into the city like it belonged to him again, not because anyone gave it, but because he took his place in it and refused to be moved. Back home, he sat in the dark living room, light off, street glow outlining the leash on the coffee table. He could hear faint laughter from a television down the hall in another apartment. Life was unsentimental that way. It went on around fresh wounds. He wasn't interested in healing. He was interested in math, actions, consequences, and balancing totals. The phone buzzed. Unknown number. He let it buzz twice more, then answered. A reporter's voice, careful. I can't verify the source, but this is solid. We're running parts tomorrow. He said nothing. If there's more, use the same drop. Still nothing. Whoever you are, thank you. The line clicked dead. He set the phone down like it might explode. In a small apartment across town, Calloway stared at his sleeping daughter, panic and pride warring under his skin. He hated feeling vulnerable near her. He hated feeling anything near her that wasn't invulnerable. He sat in the hallway, hand over his mouth, listening to the house breathe. Control had been oxygen. Fear tasted like smoke. He coughed quietly. Mercer watched his own reflection in a dark television screen, hairline, jaw, the small aging he'd ignored. He rubbed his face and thought of phone calls, unanswered favors, uneasy alliances. He drafted a message to a captain who disliked him, deleted it, wrote again. He pictured internal knocking. He pictured a reporter on his porch. He pictured a man in shadow. Marcus stood in the doorway to Ranger's old corner, the bed still there, fur caught in threads. He knelt, rested a hand on it, then on the leash. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, the decision looked exactly the same as yesterday. He holstered his calm like a sidearm and walked back to the desk. There was work. Out on patrol, Calloway gripped the wheel too hard. Mercer scanned sidewalks like they were pages waiting to incriminate a name. The radio crackled with a routine traffic call. Neither moved to answer. For the first time, they felt the city watching back. Somewhere beyond their headlights, a man cataloged their breath, their roots, their tells. And he was patient. He'd tracked them long enough to recognize the rhythm. Fear curdled to desperation. Desperation made them careless. With no suspects and no plan for an invisible adversary, they swung wild, hoping to hit something. From 3 cars back, Marcus watched Calloway and Mercer circle blocks, leaning on former arrestees, mistaking intimidation for investigation. Panic sped them up. Impatience turned sloppy. Marcus predicted the pivot before they did. They'd been harassing men like Briggs and Carter, big frames, reputations for pushing back. When that failed, they'd reach for a different target. He saw it in Mercer's hesitation at a familiar turn and in Calloway's forward lean as Marcus's house filled their windshield. He'd been waiting for this exact moment. For 2 nights he prepped the place. Not obvious hardening, nothing a cop would clock and back off from. He staged a vulnerability, half-drained whiskey bottle visible, messy stack of unopened mail, a gun safe, left barely ajar, appearing careless, the cameras hid in plain sight, angles perfect, lenses hungry. Porch light on, side gate unlatched, a quiet welcome. Marcus sat on the couch, phone balanced on his knee, breath even. The first knock landed, crisp, entitled. He rose unhurried, kept the performance loose and unthreatening. A second knock hit harder. He worked the locks and opened to find them filling his threshold like a storm cloud. Evening, he said evenly. Help you with something? Calloway's smile never touched his eyes. Mind if we step in? Marcus leaned against the frame. That depends. You got paper? Or planning to shoot me again? Mercer chuckled. Got anything to hide? Marcus tilted his head, a hint of amusement. Just partial to legal entries, you understand. Calloway's grin spread. Legal? Funny word these days, isn't it? Marcus waited. The sergeant bit. A palm crashed into Marcus's chest, shoving him back inside. He clipped a side table. The bottle skittered across the floor. The door thumped shut behind the officers. Mercer exhaled through his nose. We've been learning some very interesting things. Marcus kept everything loose. Posture, face, breath. That's so. Calloway stalked a tight circle, predator cadence, convinced the prey had surrendered. Whoever jumped me wasn't some corner knucklehead. He moved like the training, clean, efficient. That narrows the pool. Mercer leaned in, baiting. Like Delta. Marcus let silence breathe until it strained, then laughed low, genuinely amused. The laugh flickered Calloway's confidence. You think I tuned you up? Marcus shook his head. Graham, if I had, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Mercer's jaw bunched, but Calloway recovered. Interesting thing to say. Marcus rubbed his jaw like a tired man chewing an unwelcome pitch. Whatever's happening to you two, it isn't me. We don't buy that, Calloway said. Marcus clocked the tell. Weight shift, shoulder coil, Mercer's hands curling. He didn't block. The first shot hammered his ribs, sharp, calibrated. He grunted, stumbled, stayed limp. Another cracked his jaw, bright pain sparking behind his eyes. His training begged to answer. His plan ordered surrender. He obeyed the plan. Calloway fisted Marcus's collar, dragging him upright. Not so tough now, huh? Marcus sagged, breath rough, playing the part clean. You finished? He rasped. For now, Mercer sneered. Calloway shoved him into drywall, stepped back, satisfied. Stay out of our lane, Marcus. If we learn you were involved, you won't like the ending. Then they were gone. He stayed down long enough for his ribs to roar, then rose, crossed to the laptop, and opened the feeds. There it was, the push past the threshold, Mercer closing the door, fists in a private home without a warrant, crisp audio, perfect angles, arrogance on display. He sat, the screen's cold glow reflecting in his eyes. The bruises would yellow by week's end. The ache in his chest would hum longer. Worth it. Every shove, every taunt, every stage stumble had been purchase price. He replayed the clip. Entry, door, strike, threat. No ambiguity. He'd dangled instinct. They'd grabbed it with both hands. Step 1 was complete. Step 2 would cut deeper. He opened a secure folder. Weeks of work glimmered. Scans, photos, names, badge numbers, complaint lists, timestamps, dispatch logs, policy excerpts, redacted memos. This wasn't a pair of bad nights. This was a system incubating the worst men it produced. He drafted the first email, attached a tightened edit. Not everything yet, just enough to spark ignition. He leaned back, knuckles cracking, breath measured. Send. The first wave was airborne. The storm would follow. But he had one more appointment before the rain. Tony Mercer. He'd charted Mercer's habits too. More jittery than Graham, more suspicious, hand hovering near steel. Still, Mercer believed a badge could absorb consequences. It couldn't. Not anymore. From a dead zone half a block away, Marcus watched the dive Mercer had adopted as his church. Not a cop bar, too many prying eyes. This was the kind of room where secrets fossilized. 3 hours in, Mercer stumbled out, shoulders knotted, anger leaking from every line. Internal whispers had reached him. Bad intel, accurate and damning. If Calloway fell, Mercer fell with him. Malcolm, Marcus had made certain of it. He drummed fingers on the steering wheel, then killed the engine. No traps tonight, no need, just timing. Mercer wasn't going home. He was pacing the wound. He cut through the alley toward the lot. Marcus followed, feet silent, distance tight enough to talk. Long night, Marcus said. Mercer froze. Shoulders stiffened. Instincts fired. He turned slow, squinting until recognition flared. You, he said, the word sour. Marcus didn't move. You look tired, Tony. Mercer's hand twitched near his belt, a reflex older than his judgment. What do you want? Marcus tipped his chin. A single truth you'll finally feel. Mercer huffed a laugh. Big talk for a guy who let us work him over. Marcus exhaled. Funny thing about that. The smile left Mercer's mouth. Marcus stepped in, voice dropping. Graham was the preface. You're the chapter. Mercer's nostrils flared. His hand snapped for the grip. He never touched it. Marcus moved first, clean, precise, decisive. Concrete caught Mercer's skull. The air punched out of his lungs. He realized immediately this wasn't a warning. This was personal, surgical. He clawed for leverage. A boot pinned his wrist, grinding bone against grit. Pain explodes brighter than sirens. "Stay down," Marcus said. The voice was calm, familiar from a nightmare Mercer thought he'd misremembered. Fear arrived honest for the first time in Mercer's life. Instinct screamed to dominate. Same script he'd always run, but whiskey dulled the edges. Consequence sharpened. Marcus's knuckles sank into the float between ribs, just off bone. Agonizing. Lingering. Mercer wheezed, choking on pain. "You remember me now," Marcus murmured, serene. He dragged Mercer up by the collar, face to face. "Look at me," Marcus ordered. Mercer blinked through tears and asphalt grit. Blood salted his lips. Recognition sparked and held. "You," he rasped. Marcus's grip tightened. "Say my name." Mercer swallowed, throat clicking. Silence clung. Marcus leaned closer, voice soft and lethal. "You shot my dog." The flinch was involuntary, the memory unspooling despite denial. "You remember," Marcus continued, tone almost paternal. "I bet it felt real easy in the moment. Just another thing you could get away with because no one stopped you." Mercer shook, pain or terror or both. "But I'm not your usual target," Marcus said. "I don't forget. I don't forgive. I don't put nightmares back in drawers." Mercer tried to talk. Marcus didn't let him. The next punch broke cartilage. Blood flooded Mercer's mouth, breath wet and ragged. He made an animal sound. Marcus kept the violence clean. No spectacle, no sloppiness, just calibrated repayment. He let Mercer feel every cruelty he'd ever rationalized. When it ended, Mercer lay wrecked, arrogance leaking out with blood. Marcus crouched beside him, breath even. "This is the beginning," he said, barely above a whisper. Mercer whimpered, a cracked sound puncturing the alley's dark. Marcus's mouth might have flexed almost a smile, almost not. "I told you I remember," he said. Then he rose and vanished. By the time Mercer dragged himself to the car, alibis were gathering. Inside a packed casino, Marcus let cameras love him. He walked past security into the buzz of lights and noise, collecting angles, timestamps, witnesses. He chatted up a pit boss, bled a few hands, lost with a smile. At the bar, he knocked knuckles on wood. "Rough night?" the bartender asked. "Something like that," Marcus said, toasting anonymity. He sipped slow, facing a sea of faces. Let them watch him. Let the system download his image in 10 different frames. When Mercer howled his name at the station, it would bump into footage showing Marcus miles away under a chandelier, losing blackjack with good humor. Truth and proof diverged on purpose. The beauty sat in that gap. He drove home, with the quiet certainty of a man who'd set every piece properly. The next move wasn't his. It belonged to men who could only think in straight lines. He saw the strobes before turning onto his block. 2 units, 4 uniforms, posture rehearsed. He parked, shut off the engine, and tasted satisfaction more than fear. He stepped out slowly, hands visible, shoulders level. "Marcus Hale," one called, voice taut. "That's me." "Out of the vehicle," he complied, no commentary. A stocky cop with anxious hands stepped up. "Turn around, hands behind your back." Marcus's mouth bent, almost a smile. "You sure?" A flicker of doubt crossed the man's face, then died. "Now." Marcus rolled his shoulders once and presented his wrists. Steel-bit skin, familiar, irrelevant. Everything was unfolding on rails he'd laid. They walked him to the car, rights monotoned in the background, words he didn't need. Across the street, Miss Alvarez stood with folded arms, her eyebrows sharp. She'd seen the timeline. She'd tell anyone who asked. The ride was quiet. Small talk died against Marcus's stillness. In the rear lot, the station felt like a building holding its breath. He moved through stale corridors, past desks stacked with paper, faces turning then away. Some confusion, some certainty. They deposited him in a windowless room with a flickering light and a table etched by years. 15 minutes trickled. Then the door opened. Captain Holt, the gravity in the badge rack, filled the frame and altered the air. He carried rank like a baton he was willing to swing. A file hit the table with a flat smack. He sat opposite Marcus and drummed one finger once. You know why you're here? Marcus tipped his head. Not a clue. Holt exhaled through his nose, opened the folder, flipped pages, slid a set of photos across, Mercer bleeding on concrete, Calloway folded around Payne, neither looking invincible. Marcus didn't blink. 2 officers assaulted in a week, Holt said. Both think they know exactly who did it. That's so. Holt leaned in. Where were you last night? Marcus let quiet accumulate until it asked nicely. Bellagio, he said finally. Casino floor, main bar. Pull the for footage. You'll see me, time-stamped, on camera, while Tony's getting his face remodeled. It wasn't a grin Holt swallowed. It was something narrower and sharper in his eyes. You think this is sport? Holt asked. Marcus shrugged. I think we're wasting each other's time. Holt's jaw flexed. He drew another sheet. Printed email, the kind that multiplies in inboxes. Marcus recognized his own blade by the scabbard. The leak had landed. Holt set it down like a grenade he couldn't disarm. Outside, the timing tightened. The first batch was already rolling. Forced entry, dead body cams, patterns of brutality with dates and faces. Reporters would have theirs. Public defenders theirs. The one honest IA lieutenant his. Marcus didn't need a jury yet. He needed daylight. He'd provided it. Holt steepled his fingers. Whatever you think you're doing, this is a mistake. Marcus met him, gaze flat. No, your mistake was believing rot doesn't stink. Holt's lips pressed pale. You think those 2 are where it stops? Marcus let a small smile show. I'm counting on it not stopping. A knot clipped the moment. A young officer edged in. Captain, you should see this. Irritation. Not now. Sir, it's everywhere. For the first time, Marcus watched realization arrive like a tide inside the captain's face. The door opened wider. Another uniform stepped in. Sir, we need to release him. Marcus lifted his cuffed wrists a fraction. You should unhook me. Holt's fists tremored as he stood, but he knew the fight had moved rooms. The cuffs snapped open. Marcus rubbed wrists, straightened his shirt, and regarded Holt. Next time, he said, tone almost pleasant, hire better men. He walked out. The world beyond the doors was already burning. Cameras bloomed like flowers. Mics reached. The wind carried the smell of panic and gasoline, the scent of a narrative, finding oxygen faster than the department could smother it. He stepped onto the concrete and into a chorus. Questions layered, shouted, scrambled. He ignored all of them. Across the churn stood the former kings of this courtyard, suddenly ordinary in daylight. Calloway's arrogance was stripped to wire. Mercer was barely upright, face still swollen in ugly colors. They looked at Marcus, and he looked back, steady and unbothered. The press sensed the gravity and surged toward the triangle forming. Calloway's mouth opened, then closed. Mercer's eyes were hot with a heat that used to produce compliance. Marcus stopped a few feet off. Silence doing work no quip could. Mercer broke first. You set us up, he spit, voice ruined. Marcus smiled, slow. You did this to yourselves. Mercer twitched like muscle memory might still matter. Cameras leaned in, public watching, witnesses multiplying. The old playbook died in his hands. Calloway blew out a bitter breath. Enjoy the moment. Marcus tipped his head. Moment. He let the laugh roll. No, Graham, this is the rest of your life. Firm, certain, not a threat, a reading. There's no promotion coming, Marcus said, voice soft enough to cut. No cushy exit. No old friend to bury this. You're finished. Rage jittered through Mercer, hunting something to break. There was nothing left that wasn't him. Marcus turned slightly so the lenses could feed. Then he leaned in far enough that only they heard the last line. You always thought you were the strongest men in the room, he murmured. Turns out you were the weakest. Calloway looked past him at the press, at the station, at narrowing walls. There was nothing left to say, and he finally knew it. Marcus stepped back. See you around, boys. He walked away and didn't turn. Home, the remote clicked through channels flashing the same headline. Terminated. No pension, no severance. no gentle glide into consulting. The chief read a script about culture and reform, a voice lacquered. Marcus sipped and watched a live shot of Calloway, shoving through reporters outside his house, jaw tight. Comment? Silence. A cut revealed Mercer beside him, seething. Good. Let them taste the medicine they'd prescribed. The next segment showed Marcus outside the precinct, then the anchor. Mr. Hale, detained then released without charges, despite speculation, airtight alibis and witnesses clear him of assault allegations. Footage rolled. Marcus at the casino bar, smiling, visible, asked if he had a message for the officers. He'd said one sentence. They got what they deserved. He clicked the TV dark. The city hummed. Phones chimed. Demands crescendoed. But Marcus knew this wasn't done. Fired is not caged. He hadn't burned months to watch them retire into comfortable villains. They needed to stand under the same weight they'd hung on others. He swung back to process and paperwork. Over the next week, he converted noise into charges. Formal complaints, the intrusion at his home, the street assault, historical patterns, false arrests, baton happy nights, mysteriously blank body cams. This wasn't vengeance alone. It was architecture, precedent for what would happen the next time wrong men wore right uniforms. He signed his name in ink and didn't flinch. The department tried a familiar routine: isolate the rot, call it an anomaly, promise training slides and fresh slogans. The public yawned at the PR. Protests gathered on courthouse steps. Signs asked why civilians got instant charges while bad cops earned gentle investigations. Then the dam cracked. A grand jury. Conspiracy, official misconduct, aggravated assault, illegal search, attempted murder, forced entry, beatings in a private residence, bullets fired at a family member. Rex mattered here too. Marcus stayed quiet, assembling his testimony like kit pieces he'd laid out days before. The invitation arrived. He didn't need to find them. They found him outside a cafe 2 weeks later. No cameras, no microphones, just ghosts in midday shadow. You sure? Marcus asked, hands in his coat. Calloway's face was a study in sleepless rage. Whatever you're pushing won't stick, he muttered. You don't know how this works. Marcus shook his head. No, Graham, you don't. Calloway scuffed a bitter laugh. Cops don't do time. Marcus stepped closer. They do when I testify. A muscle leaped in Calloway's jaw. You think you're some hero? Marcus's reply was gentle. I think I'm why your hands won't stop shaking. The truth landed. Fear finally found its name in him. Marcus leaned near. You know what's wild. Calloway didn't move. You're not even the worst one. He let that hang, then walked away. The court date went public. Headlines sharpened. Former officers to stand trial for assaulting man in his home. A city unaccustomed to daylight, braced for noon. Marcus adjusted a tie in a mirror, expression unreadable. The next time he saw them would be under a seal and a flag. He intended to watch their faces when the words landed. The courtroom filled, heavy with oxygen that felt flammable. Journalists lined the back, thumbs ready. Community leaders held stillness like candles. The prosecuting team shuffled pages with calm hands. Marcus took the stand straight-backed, practiced within his bones. He'd been in pressure before, but this wasn't a battlefield. This was a ledger read aloud. Across from him, Calloway and Mercer wore indifference like cheap suits. Their tells betrayed them. Mercer's twitching fingers, Calloway's too sharp exhale when the judge entered. They were scared. They should be. The bailiff called the room to order. The judge delivered instructions that cut fat. Charges read, each count landing heavier than the last. Then, the state calls Marcus Hale. He rose, swore in, sat. The prosecutor smiled with her eyes, not her mouth. State your name. Marcus Hale. Your work? Private security. Former U.S. Army Special Operations. A ripple moved through the room. Calloway's mouth tightened. Mercer swallowed. The prosecutor nodded. Do you remember the night of March 4th? I do. Walk us through it. I was walking my dog, Ranger, 6 years, shepherd, well-trained, family. The words were steady. The line between clinical and human walked without stumble. I just returned from a long rotation. I take him out late, quiet. A cruiser slowed. 2 officers approached. Who? Sergeant Graham Calloway and Officer Tony Mercer. He let the names hang, then continued. They questioned whether I belonged on my own block. Asked for ID. I stayed calm, gave my address. They saw it. They didn't care. He felt air in the room thin. Questions sharpened into accusations. Calloway's hand stayed near his holster. He breathed. I kept my tone level. I didn't resist. That never mattered to them. Tell us about Ranger, the prosecutor said gently. Marcus's jaw worked. He sensed the shift. He took one step, protective, not aggressive. I told him to stay. He did. His voice thinned, then steadied. Officer Mercer drew anyway. I told him there was no threat. He shot my dog in the chest. The gallery became a held breath. What happened next? I screamed. I moved toward Ranger. They used it as the pretext they'd been building, tased me, beat me, cuffed me. Were you charged? No. They held me, then released me. No apology. And then they returned. No warrant. Forced entry. Assaulted me in my living room. Do you have evidence? Roll it. The screen's lit. The shove past the threshold. The door ceiling. The first punch. The threats. Their faces like open books. Entitlement scrawled in thick marker. Marcus didn't look up. He'd memorized every frame. The jury watched. The defense blanched. The film cut out. Should they be held accountable? The prosecutor asked. Yes. Why? Because they're criminals. The word hit like a gavel. Mercer clasped his hands tight. Calloway's stare bored into wood. We'll recess, the judge said, voice gravel. But recess wasn't escape. The air grew heavier with the weight of truth refusing to go back where it came from. When defense rose, it brought the polished tone of a man selling fog. Mr. Hale, the attorney said, buttery and thin, you've endured a lot. Marcus let silence reply. Accused falsely, your dog lost, then assaulted. Traumatic, yes? Marcus's jaw ticked. Yes. Could trauma color your view? Translation, revenge. My view doesn't change facts, Marcus said. Of course, but interpretation. You don't need mine. You have the footage. The lawyer's smile cracked. Context matters. Marcus lifted an eyebrow. There's a context where men kick in a door and beat a homeowner that reads as righteous? Murmurs rippled. The judge lifted a palm. Emotions run high, the lawyer insisted. Misunderstandings. You think I misunderstood fists to ribs, or maybe and 25,000 volts? The jury leaned closer. You're a trained fighter, the lawyer pivoted. Delta. Dangerous? Marcus breathed through his nose. Only to people who earn it. The room stilled. The attorney retreated. No further questions. At the defense table, Mercer's foot tapped a panicked rhythm. Calloway stared straight ahead, knuckles white as pressed paper. They'd known the line they'd walk, ended here. The prosecutor rose. Your Honor, the state recalls Sergeant Calloway. His counsel hissed in his ear, but the man stood anyway, slow, the long walk, heavy. He sat, hands locked together. She flipped a page. 17 excessive force complaints in 6 years, all dismissed. Want to tell the jury why? I did my job. Your job? Policing is dangerous. Dangerous enough to skip the law? She cut, voice sharpening. He froze. She faced the jury. Not one reached a courtroom until today. Calloway's shoulders slumped under invisible weight. Do you believe you're above the law, Sergeant? No. Good. She stepped back. No further questions. He sagged, a monument to everything brash, undone by everything recorded. Mercer's turn was colder. The prosecutor pressed play on a body cam audio file. A crack like winter branches, a dull thump, a silence with teeth. Then Mercer's recorded voice. Dog shouldn't have moved. Marcus didn't look left. He didn't need to. "Do you regret shooting Ranger?" she asked. Mercer paused too long. It was justified. The jury's eyes hardened. "No further questions," she said, disgust quiet and controlled. The judge rubbed his temple. "Closing arguments tomorrow," he declared. "Adjourned." Everyone already had the ending in their bones. Marcus stood slowly, the kind of rise that acknowledges gravity and ignores it. The defense looked smaller than the table they clung to. The prosecution packed with efficient gentleness. Closing day opened on a room taut with expectation. The prosecutor didn't carry notes. She didn't need flash. "Some cases tangle," she said. "Gray lines, messy truth. This isn't one." She looked at the gallery, at the defendants, at Marcus. "You saw it. Two men given authority used it to break lives. This wasn't a lapse. It was a pattern. A pattern stopped because one man refused to shut up," she said. "Finish what he started." She sat. The defense rose with the resignation of a man arguing against a tide. He tried a spin, overreach, ambiguity, passion from a wounded witness. The words rung hollow, impotent. He sat without meeting his client's eyes. The jury filed out. They didn't take long. When they returned, the foreman stood, paper in hand, voice clear. "Guilty on excessive force, guilty on illegal search and seizure, guilty on aggravated assault." Count after count, the drumbeat didn't falter. Calloway's face drained. Mercer's grip turned knuckles bone white. The judge let the weight settle, then leaned toward a nation listening. "You abused your office, Wam," he said. "You violated trust. You brutalized citizens and met exposure with arrogance." His tone dropped, dangerous. "I have no sympathy." He turned to the room. "This city watched. They saw what unchecked power produces. My job is ensuring you never hold that power again. Then, for the listed crimes, I sentence you to 25 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole." The room erupted in the ways rooms do. Gasps, whispered prayers, stunned stillness. Calloway folded into his own hands. Mercer opened his mouth, like air might bargain for him. Marcus didn't cheer. He didn't smile. He let finality be what it is, quiet, heavy enough. The gavel banged. "Adjourned." On the steps, microphones lunged. "Statement? Was justice served? Any regrets?" He paused, thought of Ranger's last breath, of the wire in his ribs, of weeks building a clean trap. He looked straight into the lens. They got what they earned. Then he walked, shoulders square, leaving questions to chase their own echo. For the first time in longer than he could measure, he didn't glance back. The cemetery's quiet wasn't empty. It was intentional. Wind slid through grass like whispering. Time slowed in that place. Marcus traced the path by muscle memory, hands in his jacket pockets, afternoon breeze finding the seams in his clothes. Nothing left unfinished. Not anymore. He stopped at the stone, small, clean, permanent. Ranger, loyal to the end. He crouched, palm against cool granite. "Hey, boy." The words were a rasp, sanded by time. He let silence have its turn. "It's done," he said to the earth. The breeze shifted, moving blades into a shimmer. He could almost hear the heavy pad of paws beside him. "You were right about them," he said. "Before I was. Before I admitted it." He studied the letters, tracing grooves. "I didn't just settle for a headline," he added, voice steady. "I took them apart carefully, piece by piece. You would have appreciated the structure." His mouth twitched, an echo of humor without warmth. Satisfaction, colder than celebration. "I let them think they had a route out," he said. "Gave them the illusion they were climbing. Then I took the ladder." His knuckles rested on the stone, the fist light. "I made them small. I made them feel the helplessness you tasted before the shot." He rolled his shoulders. "They never even saw the first trap. They blamed luck. They blamed shadows. They blamed ghosts," he said, a breath like a laugh ghosting out. "By the time they found my name in their throats, it was too late. His fingertips drifted through grass at the base, every angle covered, every exit bricked. I let them hit me so the camera could hit back harder. I didn't want them fired, he said. I wanted them erased from the harm they could do. Jobs gone, reputations dust, freedom measured in a yard of concrete. He pictured mornings in a cell, buzzers replacing alarms. They'll wake every day for 25 years and know I'm why. He let the sentence settle. It fit the ground. Felt good, he admitted softly. Putting them down. Honesty has its own temperature. He ran a hand over his face, rough with fatigue. Not what you'd want to hear, huh? The wind moved again, grass hissing faintly. The sky leaned toward evening, blue thickening at the edges. He sat with the quiet until it felt like company. You'd tell me to let it go, he said, almost smiling at the absurdity. Move forward. He dug fingertips into the dirt in front of the stone, grounding. I don't know if I can. The words surprised him by how soft they landed. This wasn't a movie's final swell. Scars don't fade because a judge speaks, but purpose steadied. He slid a worn photo from his inside pocket, the one he'd carried like a talisman. The edges frayed, but the center was crisp. Ranger sitting backyard straight, ears pricked, head cocked, sunlight touching his fur. Marcus ran a thumb across the image, then propped it against stone. I miss you, he said. The wind answered in its fluent way. Dusk shifted the light, pulling longer shadows across the lawn. He drew a breath, full and measured, then stood. He let his gaze rest on the name one last time, understanding that grief isn't a wound to close. It's a room you visit until you know its corners by heart. He turned. The path waited. He took it. The city would keep humming. People would argue policy and post takes and forget in staggered intervals. He wouldn't. That was fine. He had done what needed doing and left a map for anyone who needed it next time. He slid hands into pockets, felt the leash's ghost weight, and kept walking without checking the distance behind him. At home, the couch still held the shape of his last late-night planning. The coffee table's nick, where the bottle had bounced, remained. He sat not to watch coverage, but to feel his body locate calm, now that the mission shifted from sprint to maintenance. The quiet felt different, less like absence, more like a space he'd earned. His phone buzzed. Janelle's text. Proud of you. Dinner Sunday? He typed, yeah. Another buzz. The reporter who ran the first piece. Off record, more coming. Culture audit, leadership fallout. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. He wasn't the story anymore. He was the reason it existed. That was enough. He closed his eyes. Sleep came in fragments these days, but when it arrived, it wasn't hunting him. He dreamed of Ranger asleep under the table while rain needled windows, the old man next door laughing at something small. The kind of quiet that isn't empty, just content. He woke before dawn, and for once, the house felt like it was on his side. He laced up and jogged the block in a loop that avoided the worst intersections of memory. A neighbor lifted a hand, in solidarity, not pity. He returned it, surprised by how easy the gesture moved. Back inside, he brewed coffee and read the paper because ritual denies chaos room to crash in. Headlines shouted accountability. He let them shout. The department announced sweeping reforms by afternoon. The kind of phrases you use when you're sweeping dust so high people might mistake it for substance. He didn't care if the captain kept his chair. He cared that 2 uniforms turned in their badges because proof finally outran excuses. He cared the kids at Briggs's gym trained under windows, unbothered. He took a call from a civil rights group. We can turn this into policy, they promised. We can codify what you forced into daylight. He said, do it. He didn't ask for his name on anything. He didn't want it. He wanted results that outlived him. He wanted the next ranger to live old and soft. At sunset, he returned to the backyard where Ranger used to patrol the fence, like a soldier on a quiet post. He stood hands on hips, listening to creak and leaf rustle. We did it, buddy, he said, voice low, almost embarrassed by the sentiment. Then he breathed slower. And we're not done. but we're farther than we were. He gathered the training dumbbell Ranger used to carry like a medal and set it on the workbench, not as shrine, but as memory with weight. Grief isn't about erasing, it's about arranging. He turned off the light, stepped through the sliding door, and paused at the threshold, because rituals matter. "Good night," he said to the room. He slept deeper. In the morning, the world would ask him to say more, be more, do more. He wouldn't. He'd only do what was required next, not what was demanded by people who like to consume pain as content. He'd keep his promise where it mattered, in courtrooms, in policy shops, in small, steady acts. That was the job. The wind found the photo at the stone and pressed it flatter. Somewhere behind concrete and fences, two men woke to numbered days. In a house on a quiet street, a man finally let his jaw unclench. He didn't forgive. He didn't forget. He moved forward anyway, because closure isn't erasure. It's choosing the next good step. Lesson 1. When power forgets its duty, ordinary people must remember theirs. For many of you who watched grainy newscasts in the 1960s and then saw color TVs fill with fresh promises in the 1970s, the story of Marcus Hale lands like deja vu. Two officers, Calloway and Mercer, treated a quiet cul-de-sac like their personal fiefdom. A black veteran walking his German shepherd wasn't a neighbor, he was a pretext. You can almost feel the afternoon sun on the sidewalk, hear the click of rangers' paws, smell fresh-cut grass, and then the shift, voices sharpen, hands drift toward holsters, and fear gets dressed up as procedure. Older Americans know that move. We've seen it before. The shot that ended Ranger's life did more than kill a good dog. It told a man who had served his country that his zip code and his skin outweighed his service. And yet, even in that heartbreak, there's a duty older generations have carried like a flag, to hold power accountable. Marcus lifted his hands, kept his voice steady, remembered names, dates, policy lines, because someone had to. Those of us past 65 understand this discipline. We balanced checkbooks by hand. We saved receipts in shoeboxes. We kept records because truth needs paper. Power forgets. Citizens must remember. Lesson 2. Vengeance burns. Hot but receipts burn longer. Let's be honest. Many of us felt the spark when Marcus whispered over Ranger's grave that this would not end with a shrug. But what separates a headline from a turning point is what you do with the fire. Marcus could have stayed in the alley and broken bones till his knuckles gave out. Instead, he built a case the old-fashioned way, with patience sharp as a razor blade, cameras hidden in plain sight, timestamps, geotags, door jamb splinters photographed with the precision of a carpenter. Visits to people the officers had bullied for years, Taryn Briggs at the boxing gym, Dion Carter in that tired apartment, documented without grandstanding. A certified letter to the civilian board written in the dry, relentless language of policy. Anonymous packets slipped to the one honest internal affairs lieutenant and to a reporter who still kept a spine. Older Americans know that rhythm. We collected warranties and owner's manuals because someday someone would say, "Prove it," and we'd open the right drawer. That's what Marcus did. Yes, he staged a trap at home. Legal lines crossed on camera by men who assumed doors were suggestions. Yes, he arranged an alibi under bright casino chandeliers while rumors tried to run him down. But the heart of the victory wasn't cleverness, it was documentation. Receipts outlast rage. In a world that too often rewards noise, it was the quiet work, the methodical, the boring, the undeniable, that turned two uniforms into defendants. Lesson 3. Real justice is public, procedural, and painfully slow. Choose it anyway. Folks our age have seen reform come in waves, press conferences, new slogans, maybe a poster in the squad room. Then the tide slips back out. This time the current changed because the next step stayed public. The newsroom said, "We're running it." The board said, "We're opening it." A captain had to uncuff the very man his department had dragged in. And then came the room that matters, a courtroom with a seal on the wall and a clock that refuses to hurry for anyone. Marcus didn't thunder. He didn't deliver TV lines. He sat straight, spoke plain, and let the footage say what bruises already knew. The officer's lawyer tried to wrap the moment in fog, context, emotion, misunderstanding. But juries, especially seasoned juries, know the difference between a bad day and a bad pattern. Count after count, guilty, landed like steady drumbeats, excessive force, illegal entry, aggravated assault. When the judge said 25 years, it wasn't revenge. It was a message written in the only language institutions fully understand: consequence. For older Americans, there's comfort here. We've always believed that the slow tools, grand juries, sworn testimony, cross examination, the patient insistence on facts, can still carve stone. It doesn't bring Ranger back, it doesn't erase the long minutes on the pavement, but it sets a precedent stamped with dates, policy, and proof. That is how your grandkids inherit something sturdier than a headline. Conclusion: the legacy we can still build. Marcus didn't declare victory with fireworks. He brewed coffee, answered his sister's text about Sunday dinner, and walked the same block with a lighter jaw. That ending may feel smaller than our anger wants, but it's closer to the lives we actually live. Two men who wore badges lost the right to harm. A city saw receipts trump swagger. A gym full of kids trained beneath windows instead of worried glances. And one veteran visited a quiet stone, told the truth to the wind, and chose the next good step. Those of us who remember rotary phones and paper maps understand the power of steady steps. Keep the records, support the honest reporters and the watchdogs. Vote for leaders who use oversight like a tool, not a threat. Teach your grandkids that fairness isn't a feeling, it's a file you can open. Justice is fragile, yes, but in steady hands, it's also repairable. Friends, you've lived enough life to know quick fixes rarely fix anything. After hearing Marcus Hale's story, grief, discipline, receipts, and a verdict, what do you believe makes accountability stick? Tougher policies, better training, stronger civilian oversight, or something we haven't named yet? Have you ever kept receipts of your own notes, dates, photos that finally made someone do right by you or a neighbor? Share your experience in the comments so others can learn from your wisdom. And if this spoke to you, please like the video, subscribe, and ring the bell so more folks your age get the tools and not just the headlines.